Let's bring in North Dakota Senator John Hoeven, a member of the Energy and Natural Resources Committee. Senator, when you look at what's going on in Gaza, where do you point fingers? I mean, who's really responsible for the situation and the famine there?
No question, it's Hamas. There's absolutely no moral equivalency between Hamas, a terrorist organization, and Israel, a country that's trying to defend itself. And in fact, Israel is doing everything they can to make sure food does get into women, into children and civilians. The problem is Hamas is trying to prevent that. And of course, then trying to use that as a tool of war, hiding behind their own women and children to try to get a ceasefire, but not give back, not turn the hostages loose or end the conflict. Hamas is a terrorist organization, and they are conducting themselves as terrorist organizations do.
One of the doctors from the World Health Organization is exhorting the Israelis and really the world to start providing more help to Gaza. I want you to listen to what he has to say and then get your reaction on the other side. He says, a ceasefire is an absolute and moral imperative now. Gaza must be urgently supplied with food and medicines to save lives and begin the process of reversing malnutrition. Hospitals must be protected so they can continue treating patients. Aid blockages must end and peace must be restored so that healing can begin. In particular on hospitals, Hamas was putting some of its major operation areas underground beneath hospitals so that because they figured the Israelis could not or would not attack them.
Well, again, that's what I'm saying. Hamas is actually using women, children, and civilians to perpetuate their own existence. Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel has made very clear that if the hostages are released and Hamas puts down their arms, that will create a ceasefire right now. So Hamas can have a ceasefire anytime as long as they meet those conditions. And the world, the countries of the world, not just the United States, need to understand that the sooner we join with Israel and put an end to Hamas, put an end to, that's how you will stop the suffering and how you'll make sure that the food can get to the people it needs to get to. But the way to do it is to work with Israel and defeat Hamas.
The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu put out this statement on X regarding these accusations of famine. He reports the IPC report is an outright lie. Israel does not have a policy of starvation. Israel has a policy of preventing starvation. Since the beginning of the war, Israel has enabled 2 million tons of aid to enter the Gaza Strip, over 1 ton of aid per person. If that's the case, Senator, what's happened to all that food aid?
Well, that's exactly it. 2 million, Israel's doing everything they can to get food aid in to the women, to the children, and to the civilians. Hamas is purposely interrupting that in order to perpetuate its existence. And so, again, this is all about Hamas trying to use the suffering of its own people. Here's a terrorist organization making its own people suffer for their gains. And we have to understand that the only way to stop the suffering and to end the war is to join and to help Israel defeat Hamas. 2 million tons of food Israel's doing everything they can to get food into the women and children. 10,000 truckloads just since mid-May. So they're working to get the food in there. The key is getting it again to the people rather than having the Hamas fighters take it.
Why isn't the United Nations doing more to ensure that the people don't starve?
Exactly. Why aren't they doing more to support Israel, get the hostages freed, which Hamas is holding, and they could free at any point? Exactly right. Why isn't the UN doing more to help Israel end this war that's being perpetuated by these terrorists, Hamas? We need to be clear-eyed about this.
So you're saying that Hamas is happy to let its own people starve just to use them as political pawns so they can make headlines regarding starvation and famine?
That is exactly what they're doing.
Senator Hoeven, we appreciate your time today. Thanks very much.
Thank you, John.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.